What's up, everybody? Let's talk about the correlation of heliacal Parans and vocational choice. Without further ado, but before we get started, subscribe, like, comment, and share if you dare, because the algorithm do not give any fucks. The algorithm be like DGAF. Alright, let's get started. Astrological students, teachers, whoever's watching this. So, the role of fixed stars in astrological practice has often been relegated to a secondary position, applied as a subtle gloss over the primacy of planetary interpretation. However, the technique of Paran astrology, which measures a star's contact with the angles, the ascendant or the midheaven, or the descendant or the Imum Coli IC, via its helical rising and setting moments, offers a uniquely potent lens for understanding vocational destiny. This thesis posits that a star's helical rising at birth, a Paran, demonstrates a statistically significant correlation with an individual's choice of profession, particularly when that profession aligns with the star's core mythological function. Furthermore, this essay argues that the Paran correlation is more specific and demonstrably significant than a simple conjunction by sign, as the Paran represents a moment of activation, the star rising into the world of the native, whereas a sign-based conjunction is a static background condition. Alright, the problem of the static sky. In the standard practice of modern astrology, a fixed star is often considered relevant if it is in close conjunction within a degree or two with a planet or an angle. So, for example, a native with the sun at 13 degrees Virgo might be told that they have the mark of the star de Nebula, 16 degrees Virgo. This methodology, while useful, treats the star as a fixed point on a static zodiacal backdrop. It ignores the rich, dynamic tradition of how the ancients actually observed the stars. A star does not merely exist at a degree, it rises, it culminates, it sets. These moments were the foundation of Egyptian and Babylonian astrology long before the development of the 12-sign zodiac as we know it. This essay investigates whether returning to this dynamic model, specifically the heliacal rising of a star on the eastern horizon, ascendant, or its culmination on the midheaven, reveals a statistically significant and thematically coherent link to professional life that a simple sign-based conjunction cannot replicate. Alright, so defining the terms conjunction versus Paran. To build this thesis, we must first clearly delineate the two techniques under examination. The conjunction by sign. This is the standard method. An astrologer consults a table of fixed stars and their tropical or sidereal longitudes. If a native's planet or angle falls within a narrow orb, for example 1 degrees, of that star's longitude, the star's influence is noted. This is a static positional correlation. It is akin to saying a person was born in the same neighborhood as the star. The star's Aladdin potential, a subtle hue in the background of the planetary color. Its influence is present but diffused through the lens of the zodiacal sign and the nature of the planet it touches. And B is the Paran, or heliacal rising. A Paran occurs when a star is engaged in a specific horizon-based relationship at the moment of birth. Using the software or tables that calculate star phases, we look for a star that is, for example, simultaneously rising on the ascendant, while the sun is located somewhere else in the chart. This is a dynamic event-based correlation. The star is not just somewhere in the sky, it is doing something. It is crossing the threshold of visibility, helical rising, or reaching its highest point in the sky, culmination, at the exact moment the native draws their first breath. This is the moment of activation. The star is born with the native, stepping onto the stage of the world at the same time as the individual. Alright, part 2 is the mythological function as a vocational blueprint. The stars are not random points of light. To the ancient world, they were the embodiment of divine narratives. Their mythological functions, the stories of heroes, monsters, gods, and tools, encode specific archetypal energies. A star's mythology is its genius, its core function. For a Paran to be meaningful, it must correlate with the native's life path. We can establish a clear rubric for this correlation. So Regulus, Cor Leonis, the heart of the lion, mythologically tied to royalty, courage, leadership, and a fated rise to prominence. A native with Regulus rising at birth would be expected to gravitate toward positions of authority, management, politics, or any field where they are the face of an organization. Sirius, Canis Major, the scorching one of the dog star, associated with protection, guardianship, and the heat of creative fire. Its mythology connects to Orion's faithful dog. A native with Sirius paranatically rising might be drawn to professions of vigilant protection, military, police, security, or to the heat of creative performance and fame. Spica, Alpha Virginis, the ear of wheat held by the Virgin, symbolizing harvest, abundance, knowledge, and the gift of service. A native with Spica on the midheaven, culminating, might find vocational success in academia, research, library science, agriculture, or any field involving the cultivation and dissemination of knowledge or resources. Algol, Beta Persei, the head of Medusa or the demon star, mythologically tied to beheading, horror, and the power of the Gorgon stare. A native with Algol rising might be drawn to professions that deal with the macabre, the surgical or the transformative, surgeons, pathologists, horror writers, trauma therapists, or those who must cut away the dead weight for society. The key is thematic resonance. A simple conjunction by sign must suggest a taste for these things. A paran, however, suggests a calling. Alright, part 3 is the hypothesis. Why the Paran is a superior vocational indicator. Well, the core of this thesis is that the Paran offers a stronger, more verifiable correlation with professional choice than the sign-based conjunction for 3 primary reasons. The first is the argument from fatedness and visibility. The helical rising of a star is its first visible appearance in the eastern sky before sunrise, after a period of invisibility. In the ancient mind, this was a moment of epiphany, the god or hero appearing to the world. When this occurs at birth, the native is imbued with that star's energy in a very public, outwardly directed way. It becomes a core component of their identity that must be expressed in the world. A conjunction by sign, especially if it is not angular, is a private internal affair. It is a talent one possesses, but not necessarily one the world demands of them. The Paran is a vocational demand from the cosmos. 2 is the argument from specificity. So we consider 2 individuals born with the sun at 29 degrees Taurus. One has Algol by conjunction, 29 degrees Taurus, sitting directly on their sun. The other has a sun at 29 degrees Taurus, but Algol is not conjunct anything. Instead, at their birth in a different location, Algol is rising on the ascendant. The first individual may have an intense, penetrating, or Gorgon-like quality to their ego, sun. They might be piercingly perceptive or attract beheading experiences in their life. The second individual with the Algol Paran is far more likely to become the surgeon, the exorcist, or the one who professionally stares into the abyss. The first is about being, the second is about doing. The Paran points to an action, a path, a profession, more directly than a static conjunction. Alright, and third is the argument from statistical verifiability. This is where the hypothesis becomes testable. A statistical study would collect a large sample of charts from individuals in specific professions. So for example, 500 surgeons, 500 CEOs, 500 musicians, and a control group of the general population. The first test is the conjunction method. The study would check for the rate of conjunction. So for example, Sun, Mars, or midheaven within 1 degree of Algol in the surgeon group versus the control group. A slight elevation might be expected, but given the pervasiveness of astrological placements, the noise of the general population would likely make any correlation weak and statistically insignificant. And test 2 is the Paran method. The same charts would then be run through a Paran analysis program to check for the helical rising or culmination of Algol on the angles. The hypothesis predicts a statistically significant spike of this occurrence in the surgeon group compared to the control group, because the Paran is a rarer, more specific astronomical event tied to the exact birth moment and location. It acts as a fingerprint, filtering out the background noise of the general population and isolating the true vocational signature. Alright, part 4 is the research protocol, a proposed study. To move this from thesis to proof, a rigorous protocol would be established Data collection, gathering the birth data, date, time, and location for cohorts of at least 300 individuals, each from clearly defined professional categories. For example, Nobel laureates in physics, Academy Award nominated actors, Fortune 500 CEOs, and ordained priests. A control group of 1,000 individuals with randomized professions would be used. Astronomical calculation. For each chart, calculate the Parans for a pre-selected list of fixed stars with strong vocational mythology. Regulus, Sirius, Spica, Algol, Antares, and more. Using a program like Delphic Oracle or Solar Fire, record any instance where a star is rising, culminating, or setting at the birth moment. Alright. And statistical analysis. Compare the frequency of specific star Parans within each professional cohort against the frequency in the control group. Use a chi-square test to determine if the observed frequencies deviate from expected frequencies to a statistically significant degree, p being lesser than 0.05. Comparative analysis. In the same cohorts, analyze the frequency of close conjunctions by sign between those same stars and the traditional vocational indicator Sun, Midheaven, Saturn, Mars. Compare the significance levels of the Paran data against the conjunction data. And then we'll conclude with the re-enchantment of the vocational sky. If the proposed study were to yield positive results, it would represent a paradigm shift in astrological practice. It would validate the pre-zodiacal, horizon-based astrology of our ancestors as a powerful tool for understanding human destiny. It would elevate fixed stars from mere footnotes in a chart interpretation to primary drivers of vocational identity. The conclusion would be that a star's helical rising at birth is not merely a poetic symbol, but a verifiable marker of a fated professional path. It suggests that at the moment we enter the world, a specific archetype is literally on the rise, demanding to be lived out through our daily work. The conjunction by sign may tell us the color of our soul, but the Paran on the ascendant or midheaven tells us the nature of our contribution to the world. It is the difference between possessing a treasure and being called to a quest. In the end, the stars do not just influence us, they enact us, and at no time is this more true than when they stand at the gate of life, rising with our first breath. Thank you for watching this video with peace and love, and I will see you in the next one teaching you more astrology for free. Hope to see you there.